and welcome to ClockTower Game Studios. So last night we got to do the first playtest round that we've done in quite a while. I had my friend Nathan here go to a local game store with me, Geeks and Games over in Oregon City, Oregon. It's definitely a cool store, and you can play in-store, which makes it even better in my opinion. Which also plays nicely into one of the ClockTower key tenets, which is to support your local game stores. Because if you don't support the local game stores, you won't have anywhere to play or meet new people to play with. So definitely support your local game stores. Now anyway, we're here with Nathan today to discuss how the game went and what he thought about it. So I'm going to start by introducing kind of what I played, and then you can introduce what you played and tell a little bit about it, and then we'll discuss how the game went. So I played some Anvil Industries Daughters of the Burning Rose models as the Sisterhood of Rest. If you haven't checked them out before, definitely go check out Anvil Industries store. They're fantastic. I'll make sure to link in the description below to their website and their Patreon, because they have monthly rewards that are all interchangeable with their Regiments line, and some of those bits are also interchangeable with Daughters of the Burning Rose line, so that you can do some really cool kit bashing with them. So anyway, I played a small strike force led by a commander in heavy armor wielding a dire maul, and then one sniper type with a rail crossbow, and then four mooks that had shields and hammers, and they worked out really well. The shields really did a lot of work. It was a good list. Played really nicely, really defensive. The stun on the hammers played out pretty nice, and then I know Nathan isn't super familiar with the models he played with, so I'll at least introduce the models and then he can tell you what they were. But they were Bombshell Miniatures Niran Clan Sisters. So they're kind of these big blue alien women, similar to the Na'vi from Avatar, if you're familiar with that movie. So Nathan can tell us what he liked about the models and the list and how they played.
I just liked that they were bigger than the other models, so I could easily spot mine. And then also just that I liked that they were all dual wield, except the several rifle wielders. So
yeah, so you had what your commander dual wielded swords. Yeah. Then you had two specialists that were scouts that had sword and pistol. Then you had one grunt with a sword and pistol, and then you had 3 grunts with rifles. So what do you think overall of the list and how they played?
I think it wasn't the way that I'd like to play them, because even if they had range, like once you get into contact with like close combat, then range becomes kind of pointless. So.
That's fair. So one thing to remember also as far as talking about that is I wrote both the lists, so Nathan wasn't especially aware of all of the tactics and how to best make use of his models. And on that note, that was Nathan's first mini war game ever. So what was it like learning the basics of the rules and how to play? Like, did you feel like the game was too complicated? Did you feel intimidated by it? Like, tell me a little bit about your experience learning a mini war game on the fly.
Oh, I mean, considering I want to get into mini wargaming, for first time, it's usually pretty rough learning for me. So any new game for me is rough unless it's like got an easy flow. But since there's like so many like different rules associated, or like dice where you have to throw saving throws, and like just different setups for like whenever you talk about like you're moving and then you're running, or you take 2 actions or 1 action, and then depending on where you're at, your situation, you have to add or subtract like extra numbers for what kind of like attack you can do. So that's stuff that's like new to me.
So you mean like the target number modifiers for the ranged attacks and for some of the melee attacks and that sort of stuff?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
It's basically just new for me to experience or do everything, and especially when it comes to like using a tape measure, when I'm used to playing on just the average board game where you just put it on like one tile and move to the next tile.
So Nathan, I'm glad to hear that the rules weren't too complicated and you think you can get used to it. That'll be nice to know for the future, and we can play some more games. I'm looking forward to playing some more games personally. But so what did you enjoy about the game? Like, what were some of the highlights you enjoyed most, or even just some aspects of the game you enjoyed most?
I liked the miniatures. I thought those were really cool. I liked the free form of like how it's just not like you can move your figures up and down buildings or like use the terrain itself. I thought that stuff's pretty cool. Learning new games is always pretty fun. I always like tactical games too, so that stuff always interested me. That's why I always wanted to get into it.
Gotcha. So any particular highlights from the game, like moments in the game you especially enjoyed?
Oh, I enjoyed whenever you kept hitting your own commando. That was pretty good.
Yeah, so the dice were not in my favor for shooting into close combat last night, and there was one instance where my commander and one of my grunts were pinned in close combat with a couple of Nathan's models, and out of 10 shots fired into close combat, I crit failed 5 of them and ended up shooting my own units, 3 of which actually scored good wounds. So yeah, I was well on my way to killing my own commander. So that was kind of a drag for me, but definitely made the game more interesting. So next time you play, do you think you want to play the same thing?
Oh no, I want to try different.
Awesome. So, go ahead, sorry.
I was going to say, Tanky's pretty fun, but want to try something with a different strategy.
Fair.
It starts not turning into a dice roll to see who can ham it out.
Yeah, there was definitely a point towards the end of the game where we were locked in close combat pretty much across the board, and it was a lot less tactics and a lot more luck. There was definitely a lot of tactical thinking getting into combat and who was going to fight whom. But then once we were tied up, it was pretty straightforward and a lot less tactical. It was just a lot of dice rolling, which sometimes happens. It's the nature of the game, and it doesn't help that both of our armies turned out to be pretty tanky, able to absorb a lot of damage, so it made close combat last quite a while. Whereas against some other units, it might not have. Yeah, it made for a fun game though, other than the awkward towards the end of the game where it was all just like tied up and seeing who could actually kill what models. But I've already got a couple other lists in mind. I started writing one last night, and I'll probably finish it later today. So next time we play, we'll have a couple more armies to choose from. I might pick mine randomly and let him pick first, so we'll see how that goes. But I'm trying to, as part of this, I'm also narrowing down what units and what factions I want to be included in the core game, like written into the core book, because I'm going to include one faction for each tech level and at least one sample roster for each faction. So that way it'll kind of give a good baseline of example, and also, you know, some lists that anybody trying the game for the first time doesn't have to sit down and write their own list, because that is definitely the hard part of the game. There are a lot of options, there's a lot of math involved with, you know, balancing whether you want to go offensive, defensive, try to find the happy middle ground. So hopefully in the future though, we'll have Nathan writing his own lists and he can play exactly what he wants in the future, so we'll look forward to that too. Any closing thoughts? No? Did you have fun at least?
Yeah, I had fun.
Okay, good. All right, well, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll be back later to talk about more. So it's been a little bit since the game with Nathan. I had some chance to reflect on everything that we played out and some of the plans to continue testing. I've written some more lists to go off of. I'm really excited to bring those and show them off here in some upcoming videos. In the meantime though, since it's been so long since our last video here on the channel, and updates here on YouTube have been sparse for us, I wanted to kind of lay out a roadmap of what's ahead for Clock Tower for the rest of the year. So this year, instead of a hobby goal to reach for the year, which last year was 100 models, I fell short of that. This year instead, Chris and I, one of the co-creators of S.E.E.R, we decided on doing a monthly hobby project. And so far I am 4 for 6. My hobby project for this month is a Pride-themed Outrider detachment, 500 points for 40k Eldari. We've got most of it done. The rainbow pattern I did is still spotty and needs touched up, so I'm still working on that. I'm working with a couple new brands of spray paint that I'm having issues with, but you know, sometimes that's the way it goes, and it doesn't help that it's been raining and high humidity here in the Pac Northwest pretty solid for the last, I don't know, it feels like 3 months, but really at least since I started working on the project. Previous monthly projects have included buildings, finishing a full unit of models. I did Obi-Wan Kenobi for May the 4th, and I did a Danny Trejo inspired cyberpunk model from Unit 9 on Patreon for Cinco de Mayo. I thought that was a fun one too. Those videos were up on TikTok, and I think I have one of the live feeds still. The one for Danny Trejo, I believe, is still here on YouTube. But so that's kind of where we're at with the monthly projects. As far as more long-term project goals, I'm still working on Neo Nagoya. I have 4.5 buildings in progress currently that I need to just sit down and focus on getting playable. I've over-focused on trying to make them high detail and super intricate models, when really right now what I need is to just bang them out and have a table to play on. So that's probably coming up here in the near future. Probably gonna start on that after this month and getting the Pride Month project finished up. Definitely need to focus on knocking out a board to play on here at home. So also, as far as the game itself goes, the next couple things up are developing fiction and the setting and getting all that worked in. As I'm writing the rosters for the playtest games we're playing, I'm making sure I use some of the factions and model lines that we're going to be using for the actual book, as far as like core factions that I mentioned earlier. So I'm enjoying that. I'm kind of figuring out how I want them all to fit together and slot in, and I'm trying to make sure I use models from all of the model providers that we've worked with that have agreed to let us use their models in our production. So far I've got Anvil and Bombshell and Ramshackle worked in. I've still got Gammick and Lion's Tower and a few others that I want to get worked through, but those are the ones that I'm focused on at the moment and that I've used. As far as that goes, that leads into some future videos. I think part of what I want to do for the videos moving forward is do monthly project updates and work in maybe some playtesting, not really battle reports, because I don't really have the filming capacity to do good battle reports, nor do I have a good place to film them at, since we're playing at a local game store right now. It's not exactly friendly for doing a lot of high-end filming, but it's nice to have a place to play even though I don't have a table put together. So can't knock it. Definitely happy for that resource being available. But I think part of what I want to do is do faction focuses as part of those battle reports. Kind of do a breakdown of, like, for instance, in the game that we just played would have been the Sisterhood of Rest. That faction I know is locked in. It's going to be a part of the setting. It's been a consistent part of the fiction that I've written so far in the form of short stories that have been intros to scenarios for gameplay styles. So I definitely want to continue to feature them. I think it's time to bust out the Edo Fleeny models from Bombshell and work them into, because those are some fun models that I think have amazing flavor, and they've been featured pretty heavily in the fiction so far as well. So those are probably going to be upcoming videos and upcoming factions you'll see played on the tabletop. And you've probably already seen them on Instagram if you follow us over there, which is a great plug to say you should check out our other socials. I've been posting more frequently on TikTok and on Instagram. As always, I post basically daily, or at least somewhat regularly, on Instagram. I've missed a few days recently because life's been busy and I haven't had enough time to do the hobby projects that I want to do. But I've also been posting on TikTok somewhat frequently, just short little clip videos that are kind of fun. Nothing too serious yet, but entertaining. Or at least I hope they're entertaining. So with that in mind, I think that pretty much brings us up to date and brings us to where we're trying to get to. So Be sure to like, subscribe here on YouTube, follow us on Instagram for more regular updates. Go check us out over on TikTok for short little clips. And remember, at the Clock Tower, it's always game time.